words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, the true love for the divine is self-giving, free of demand, full of submission and surrender. It makes no claim, imposes no condition, strikes no bargain, indulges in no violences of jealousy or pride or anger. For these things are not in its composition. With always our love and blessings, says our Lord Sri Aurobindo.
Gloire à toi, Seigneur, réalisateur suprême. Donne-nous une foi ardente, active, absolue, inébranlable en ta victoire. Glory to thee, O Lord, supreme master of all realization. Give us a faith active and ardent, absolute and unshakable in thy victory. Swasti nastakshye arishthanemihi swasti no vrihaspatire dadhatu om swasti om swasti om swasti om madhye sudhav bhimani mandaparatnavedi Simhasano parigadam paripitavanam Pitam varam kanakamalya vibhushitangi Devim smarami hitamukagaravai jivvam Om Hrim Chandike Devi Om Hrim Chandike Atradhishthanam kuru mama puja grihana Rasida Bhagavatyam Rasida Bhaktavatsale Prasadam kuru me Devi Durge Devi Namostute Prasida Bhagavatyam Prasida Bhaktavatsale Prasadam kuru me Devi Durge Devi Namostute Sharanam 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 Veera Sharanam Veera Mama Sharanam
Canto 1, The Word of Fate, page 435. But Savitri replied with steadfast eyes, "My will is part of the eternal will. My fate is what my spirit's strength can make. My fate is what my spirit's strength can bear. My strength is not the Titan's, it is God's. I have discovered my glad reality beyond my body in another's being. I have found the deep, unchanging soul of love. Then how shall I desire a lonely good, or slay aspiring to white, vacant peace, the endless hope that made my soul spring forth out of its infinite solitude and sleep? My spirit has glimpsed the glory for which it came, the beating of one vast heart in the flame of things, my eternity clasped by his eternity, and tireless of the sweet abysms of time. Deep possibility, always to love. This is first, last joy, and to its throb, the riches of 1,000 fortunate years are poverty. Nothing to me are death and grief, or ordinary lives and happy days. And what to me are common souls of men, or eyes and lips that are not Satyavans? I have no need to draw back from his arms and the discovered paradise of his love and journey into a still infinity. Only now, for my soul in Satyavan, I treasure the rich occasion of my birth. In sunlight and a dream of emerald ways, I shall walk with him like gods in paradise. If for a year, that year is all my life, and yet I know this is not all my fate, only to live and love a while and die. For I know now why my spirit came on earth, and who I am and who he is I love. I have looked at him from my immortal self. I have seen God smile at me in Satyavan. I have seen the eternal in a human face. Then none could answer to her words. Silent they sat and looked into the eyes of fate. End of Canto 1. 4th April 1910. Our Divine Mother says the 4th of April is the ashram's New Year, date of Sri Aurobindo's arrival in Pondicherry. Sri Aurobindo stated before coming to Pondicherry, I need some place of refuge in which I can complete my yoga unassailed and build up other souls around me. It seems to me that Pondicherry is the place appointed by those who are beyond. Later he states in Savitri and says, late will he know, opening the mystic script, whether to a blank port in the unseen he goes, or armored with her fiat to discover a new mind and body in the city of God, and enshrine the immortal in his glory's house and make the finite with one infinity. Passage to Pondicherry. Sri Aurobindo, one night at the Karma Yogan office, received information of the government's intention to search the office and arrest him. While considering what should be his attitude, he received a sudden command from above to go to Chandanagar in French India. In 10 minutes, he was at the river ghat and in a boat playing on the Ganges. In a few hours, he was at Chandanagar. Sri Aurobindo remained in the secret residence at Chandanagar, changing hideaways frequently, generally under the cover of darkness, to avoid detection of his presence by the British government. Sri Aurobindo led a secluded life at Chandanagar, where he plunged entirely into solitary meditation and ceased all other activities. It was a period of intense sadhana. One day, Sri Aurobindo received sailing orders for Pondicherry in the same way as the divine Adesha which brought him to Chandanagar. On the morning of March 31st, 1910, Sri Aurobindo commenced his onward journey to Pondicherry from the Borai Chandi Dolo Ghat at Chandanagar. Divine Adesha. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, I may add an explanation that for the time I left Lele at Bombay, after the Surat Congress and my stay with him in Baroda, Pune and Bombay, I had accepted the ruling of the inner guidance implicitly and moving only as I was moved by the divine. The spiritual development during the year in jail had turned this into an absolute law of the being. This accounts for my immediate action in obedience to the Adesha received by me. These were the lines mentioned in the autobiographical notes. Intense sadhana. Sri Aurobindo led a secluded life at Chandanagar, where he plunged entirely into meditation. He ceased all other activities. When he spoke of it as if somebody else was speaking through him, he would eat the food placed before him mechanically, remaining deeply absorbed at all times. He meditated with his eyes open and saw various subtle forms and sights. A sight, a stream of letters or akasa lipi, and the figures of three female energies, Neela, Saraswati, and Saramam. In the book The Secret of the Veda, on page 36, Sri Aurobindo writes about the Vedic thought and says, my first contact with Vedic thought came indirectly while pursuing certain lines of self-development in the way of Indian yoga, which without my knowing it were spontaneously converging towards the ancient and now unfrequented paths followed by our forefathers. At this time, there began to arise in my mind an arrangement of symbolic names attached to certain psychological experiences which had begun to regularize themselves, and among them there came the figures of three female energies, Ila, Saraswati, and Sarama, representing severally three out of the four faculties of the intuitive reason, revelation, inspiration, and intuition. Two of these names were not well known to me as the names of Vedic goddess, but were connected rather with the current Hindu tradition. Sailing orders for Pondicherry. As for Adesh, people speak of Adesh without making the necessary distinction, but these distinctions have to be made. The divine speaks to us in many ways, and it is not always the imperative adesh that comes. When it does, it is clear and irresistible. The mind has to obey, and there is no question possible, even if what comes is contrary to the preconceived ideas of mental intelligence. It was such an adesh that I had when I came to Pondicherry, says Anand. Plans for departure. Sri Aurobindo was planning for his departure to Pondicherry. Plans for his departure to Pondicherry was made. There were two stages in his journey. The first, the shorter passage, was from Chandanagar to Kolkata. The second part of the journey was longer and fraught with much greater risk. Inspired planning. In his reminiscence, Sukumar Mitra writes, "It was 1910, around the end of March. Unexpectedly, I received a letter from Sri Motilal Roy of Chandanagar. He informed me of Auroda's desire to leave Chandanagar and go to Pondicherry. All the arrangements for his departure were to be made by me, and I had to be most careful in keeping all this a secret." Departure to Pondicherry. In accordance with the plan, the boat moved downstream and crossed the river to reach Agarpara on the eastern bank. In the meantime, Amar Chatterjee had hired a boat at Uttarpara and along with his right-hand man Manmat Bishwa set off for Agarpara. Miss Rendezvous. Around midday, Negan and Suran set off in a boat which went up the river with the object of meeting the other boat that carried Aurobindo, Amar, and Manmat. All had worked out well so far, but now fate or an unseen hand intervened. The two boats failed to establish contact either at the appointed ghat or the mid-river. Grave danger. Alighting at a ghat near Chandpal Ghat, where the duplex was berthed, they hired a carriage, put Aurobindo inside, and rushed towards Sukumar's house in the College Square area. Amar, recalling the events, writes, "My mind was restless as I sat with Aurobindo in the carriage, worrying about where the others were, but he whose safety was causing me so much restlessness and agitation was himself untroubled, unshaken, motionless like a statue." Boarding SS Duplex. We climbed back into the carriage, greatly relieved. It again sped towards Chandpal Ghat. We could not see the slightest trace of anxiety on Aurobindo's face. Later, we were to talk about this among ourselves, and Amada rightly said, "The one for whom we are anxious," and was altogether calm like someone absorbed in the trance of Samadhi. That Sri Aurobindo was a man beyond anxiety or fear, that he was Abhi, fearless, I had heard, but before this meeting I have not had the good fortune of seeing it for myself. It was almost 11 at night when the carriage reached Chandpal Ghat. The four of us boarded the duplex, entered the reserved cabin. Then Amarda lowered his head and, touching his forehead with folded hand, made namaskar to Sri Aurobindo. I laid my forehead on Sri Aurobindo's feet as an expression of my reverence, and in the touch of that divine body, I felt fulfilled. This morning, April 1st, SS Duplex steamed out of Kolkata, carrying Sri Aurobindo into the safety of the open seas, and 4 days later, on 4th April 1910, he reached Pondicherry. Prayers and Meditations, April 4th, 1914. O Lord, my adoration rises ardently to Thee. All my being is an aspiration, a flame consecrated to Thee. Lord, Lord, my sweet Master, it is Thou who livest and willest in me. This body is thy instrument, this will is thy servant, this intelligence is thy tool, and the whole being is only thyself.